It's way too dark down here, and I think there is something lurking around. Let me put up some light. Well, that's better. At least now I can see where I'm going.
Hello fellow crafters, this is Landvaettr. Today I'm gonna show you how to make these. So these are LED torches for corners, for rooms. I've already showed them in another video, in a showcase I did about a month ago. And many of you wanted to know how to build these, so I'm going to show you how to do this. It's really easy, it's a very easy craft. So you can actually open it this way. There you go. And here you've got the LED, the batteries, right there. So you can turn them on, the flicking LED, put them back on, and there you go. Okay. So you've got this flickering lights right there. So if you do more of them, I've done 4 of them. Yeah, 4 of them. You can actually display them to make a sort of huge pillar, a huge column this way. So it can be interesting for gameplay. You could have a big room with those at the middle, sort of huge pillar with lights. You can also decide to set them, of course, in the corner of a room. There you go. You can set them in the corners. So I'm gonna do something a little different. There's one thing I want to change on this build. I think it was actually a mistake when I did it first. As you can see, I made a little overhang for the upper piece. First, because I thought it will be easier to pull it off, but also just for aesthetics. But it's not a very good idea. If you want to put them on a straight wall, you're gonna have a small gap, and it's not really beautiful to see. So this time, the only difference I'm gonna make, the new piece I'm gonna make, I'll make sure not to put this overhang. During the Middle Ages in castles, more often they would be using some oil lamps. This is an oil lamp, so you've got this little metal container with a burning flame. But you can very easily transform it. Take a toothpick, break it, and use one of the spikes to make a lower part of a torch, and glue it under, and you'll get a torch into a torch holder, in case you want your characters to be able to pick up torches or stuff. I've just decided to make the oil lamps that players could light up on their way, but they'll definitely have to bring torches from somewhere else in the game. So there you go. So this is the piece. So I'm going to show you what you need to build it, and I'm going to show you how to do it. It's very easy. Let's go. Okay, first thing you'll need, most important thing of all, is obviously LED tea lights. You can buy them in most DIY stores. Usually they go by 6, sometimes 8 or more, it depends on your shop. But you definitely want to choose one that is flickering, to give a nice light impression, flame impression. We will also need some foam board. This one is about 5mm thick. You also need an exacto knife, an empty ballpoint pen, and some mud podge to harden the craft. A small piece of paper, I chose black. Also something small and heavy, I chose this bolt right there. A small glue gun, a pair of scissors, and obviously some paint to paint the craft up at the end. I'm gonna start by removing the plastic flame, then we're gonna crack it open. Then I'll remove the lid at the back of the LED, as well as the battery. Then I'll straighten up the connecting that was bent inside the husk. This is gonna enable me to pull it out a little bit, because we want this piece to stick out. I'm also going to remove this small plastic piece. Be careful not to break the wires. And now I'm gonna trim all around the piece to get rid of everything that isn't essential. The only thing we're gonna keep is the husk containing the battery. At last, what I'm gonna do is to flatten the last small piece of connectic that is inside the husk. I'm gonna bend one of the wires this way, because we want the flame to stand up. I'm putting back the battery on. Testing it, it works. And I'm gonna put some very small dabs of glue just to secure the battery. So I'm gonna use the foam to make the different sides of the piece. So for the facing part, I chose about 4 centimeters wide, but you can choose what you want. And for the 2 other pieces, I'm gonna shorten them by twice the thickness of the foam. Then I'm gonna bevel the edges of the 2 small pieces, and I'm gonna aim at a 45-degree angle. But it's no issue if the angle isn't perfect, because we'll be using some hot glue to stick the pieces together. When you stick them, make sure you're at a 90-degree angle, because you want to put this in a corner. So it's got to be flush. Then we're going to glue in a small triangle near the bottom. Leave a little place underneath. Then let's glue the front wall. So I'm gonna be using this nail file to trim the inside of the craft, because I want to make sure I have enough room to stick the LED inside. Of course, you could skip this part if you use thinner foam, but then again, the craft could end up being more fragile, so I prefer to trim it. But it took a little time for me to do it properly. So then again, it's up to you. Also, what you're going to do is carve up a line on the front, just to make sure the wire will be able to slide inside the craft. You can also trim the edge of the piece if you want the connection between the pieces to be smoother. Also, you can trim the top of it to make sure everything is flush. Once you can fit properly what's left of the LED tea light inside, you're good to go. Now let's take care of the bottom of the craft, because we want to add some weight to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue in the bolts I showed you before. That's going to give nice weight to the piece. There we go, way more stable. Now I'm going to carve the stones up. Using a sharp exacto knife, I'm going to carve up the edges of the stones. You can do the pattern you want. Then I'm going to use an empty ballpoint pen just to widen the recesses between the stones. It'll give a lot more depth to the stonework. What you can do at the end is poke between the stones, just to avoid some weird looking corners. And now we're going to do the lid of the piece. And I also cut a small foam part, and it's gonna work as a junction between the LED and the lid. Once it's dry, it should be fine. Just check out the light still works and you're good to go. For texturing and giving a stone effect, you can use a ball of aluminum foil. Don't forget to texturize the top too. Now let's seal the piece using Mod Podge. First I'm gonna do the inside. Yeah, as you can see I was way too enthusiastic with the Mod Podge. I ended up diluting it with water, but the damage was already done. As you'll see later, I actually lost a lot of details inside the recesses of the stone. You might even consider putting the Mod Podge at the end when the craft is finished and painted up. I'm definitely gonna do this for the other pieces I've built. In any case, be very careful. You definitely want to water down the Mod Podge. Otherwise you'll lose all the details on your piece, and that would really suck. I'm gonna go with my usual color scheme for stones. I'm doing limestone, so I'm gonna go with a dark brown base coat. As you can see, it's really a heavy wash. I really want the paint to go into the recesses. Then I'm gonna go for the midtones. I basically mixed up burnt sienna, some yellow and some whites. Then finishing with the highlights, I'm gonna use an off-white. Here you can see the new piece in comparison to the older ones, and you can see the damage that Mod Podge can do if you don't water it down. Okay, let's go for the tricky part. We're gonna do the flame using the glue gun. So what you want to do is put a dab of glue on top of the LED and then use the nozzle, the hot nozzle of the glue gun to sculpt it, twist it to look like a flame. You can also use the hot nozzle to sculpt it further if you want. We're almost finished. Now let's paint up the metal holder using gunmetal grey. So this part is optional, but you can also do a shading of orange, just to enhance the details of the flame, make sure they're going to be visible on the board. You can also do a slight red dry brush, but make sure to only hit the details that stand out. You don't want to put too much paint. I'm gonna blacken the inside part to make sure nothing will be visible from the outside. And I'm going to dry brush some soot effect on the stones just above the torchlight. Then again, it's a detail, but it gives a more realistic appearance. And finally, I'm gonna glue the piece of paper at the bottom of the piece. So this is the finished piece. As you can see, you can open it very easily, set it on, close it again. Everything is flush. Very nice piece of modular terrain. So here you can see the final piece on display. So I hope you like this tutorial. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to click on the little bell icon if you want to get notifications. And please give me feedback in the comments. It's always a pleasure. And see you later for another crafting vid. Landvaettr signing off.